Israel thanks US for blocking UN statement calling for immediate ceasefire in Gaza.
Here's a summary of the article.
Israel has thanked the US for blocking a United Nations Security Council statement calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, and stressing the need to protect children and other civilians. While the US has a long history of stopping criticism of Israel in official UN statements, even regularly using its veto power to do so, there was a hope the US would sign on to a statement that called for both Israel and Hamas to act to prevent further casualties. The US president, who has long record of being a strident defender of Israel, is said to have stressed his belief in Israel's right to defend itself, but also welcomed efforts to address intercommunal violence and to bring calm to Jerusalem. John Oliver urges US to reconsider its position on Israel. At least 212 people, including 61 children, have lost their lives in Gaza, and 10, including 2 children, in Israel. Hamas, a militant group that has controlled Gaza since 2007, has been firing rockets into Israel. Since the creation of Israel in 1948, the US has provided it with $146 billion in bilateral assistance and missile defense funding.
This post received a score of 47,000, with an upvote ratio of 88%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
This is what the rejected draft statement said. It was drafted by Norway, China and Tunisia.
Greater than Norway, China and Tunisia. That seems like a bit of an odd pairing.
The Security Council is a musical chairs kind of place.
It's like the Avengers in the comics. A few of the big ones, and a rotation of random nobodies.
And sometimes a former villain makes it onto the team. We just don't know if we're getting a permanent ally like Hawkeye, Black Widow, or if we're getting a Sandman, Namor type of deal.
It reminds me of Medieval 2 Total War, when all I want to do is invade France because they besieged Caen one time, but every time I do the Pope says stop or I'll excommunicate you, so I invade the Papal States instead to shut him the fuck up. Not the last part, obviously.
I always loved meeting the Pope on the battlefield and intentionally trying to not kill him so he could surrender and I could execute him after I razed Rome.
Such a waste to execute him. You get 33,000 florin for ransom.
It's not about the money. It's about sending a message.
UN. We would all like to get together and write a strongly worded letter. USA. Nah. We're good. UN. Oh, I guess we won't be writing a strongly worded letter.
Welcome to the shittiness of permanent membership on the Security Council.
Yeah, I get that it was a compromise that led to the UN actually forming, but the fact that one member state can dictate the whole agenda kind of defeats the purpose of a League of Nations.
Actually, its main purpose is to prevent the permanent members going to war with each other.
Lost the forest for the trees in a historical reference kinda way.
Can you explain what you mean? Not being sarcastic. I genuinely don't know.
They didn't foresee countries engaging in military conflicts without declaring war. For example, the last countries the US declared war on were Romania, Hungary, Bulgaria during WW2, despite the US having been involved in at least 4 major conflicts since then.
Not to mention all the proxy wars.
The US has a long history of blocking any criticism of Israel, even vetoing any attempt by the UN to condemn their behavior. Unfortunately, this is par for the course for several previous administrations, not just Biden.
In 1991, President George H.W. Bush held up a $10 billion loan guarantee to Israel over Israel's continued settlement building. Bush won the battle, but eventually lost the war, a lesson that politicians have remembered ever since.
As an American who voted for Biden, I am livid. Not surprised, but livid.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.